On, right? It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Enjoy the show and we'll chat later.
Thank you. Happy day. We are here for another episode of Life Unscripted, and we are super excited to have none other than Jason Sisneros with us. Welcome, Jason, to Life Unscripted.
It's my pleasure to be here.
We have been following your Facebook Lives, and as a business owner of 8 years, I own a brick and mortar business, and I have a staff of 11. When Melanie Garcia had introduced me to your Facebook Lives, I'm like, this is like worth $1 million to me. You have just give so much great information and a lot of things. I think to myself, I wish I would have known Jason 8 years ago because I probably wouldn't have had made as many mistakes as I've made. But all of those mistakes have been lessons, and just kind of hearing some of the information that you have shared with us has just been nothing but an honor. Hello, Melanie. I was just sharing with Jason just how much I enjoy his Facebook Lives and how you have introduced that to me.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And this is as unscripted as it gets. I was telling Janie, as everyone is trying to get a hold of me, that I was stuck behind a train. And let alone about 2 minutes into the decision of, I'm just going to do this from my car. We've done that with the other guests. It's whatever it takes. When people ask me, what do you do? It's whatever it takes. So I was texting him. I apologize for my grand entrance dramatically as Melody is.
Well, we're glad that you're safe, Melanie. Very glad that you're safe.
Is there any other way to make an entrance?
This is us. This is as much as the superstars of alignments can take. As the great Jason is online, Janie. Thank you for being our guest this afternoon. And I'm actually very excited because Jason and I have had a lot of social media interactions. I love the fact, Janie, I don't know if you know this, but we are actually speaking to a superhero with a trademark named Bald Avenger. and that, I'm an Avengers fan. So when I caught that, first and foremost, I was like, what's his story? Right? And we're going to be able to share his journey of breakdown to breakthrough in this podcast. As I said, I'm just really honored that we're able to share that. And we're going to talk about some of the things that are very near and dear to my heart, which is humanitarianism, that Jason is boots on the ground, very involved with, and the project space that we have now been brought together. So I actually get to hug this man in person in February of 2019. There's a divine alignment that makes him appear sooner than that.
Yes.
But this is Jason, and and then if that wasn't enough, and we're going to talk a little bit more, I'm going to let him talk about his life from being boots on the ground humanitarian hero, as I call him. He's one heck of a savvy businessman, and I'll let him talk about his business. Mm-hmm. The only reason I came to know that is I would jump on Jason's lives, and when he started talking about Net Promoter Score, when he started talking about Six Sigma principles that I'm certified in, I was like, oh, and he's smart too. What a dangerous combination named Jason Sisneros. So Jason, I didn't know how, Jason. As he would call it, more than a pretty face.
Well, my mom always told me I had a face made for radio, so that's a big compliment, so I appreciate it.
So Jason, for
that is
super exciting. That are not familiar with so who you are, what is it that you do? Could you give a little bit of information about who Jason is?
Well, thank you very much again for having me on the show. I'm glad you made it. I was so excited to have this conversation. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. And and Janie, I follow both of you guys' work, and it's very inspiring and very necessary. The conversation that y'all are bringing to the world is very necessary. So congratulations on all you do, and keep doing it. Anything I can ever do to support, obviously I'm here. Just the short version, because, I honestly get tired of talking about myself, but for your audience that doesn't know me, I think, and again, I tell my story not because I'm attached to it in any way anymore, but because it sort of takes away excuses, right? I mean, I think that you guys, ladies, can probably both attest to the fact that any message that you attach to, it's because you see yourself in that person, that story, that message, right? And so that's why I tell it, because, you know, there's a lot of people. I was adopted when I was young by a gentleman who was less than a good guy. You know, he broke my nose multiple times when I was a kid. I started stepping in front of my mom and when at a very young age, somewhere between 6 and 7, and taking her beatings as much as I could, because she still got the brunt of it. But and then, you know, fast forward that life all the way to when I was 17, he finally got caught and arrested for attempted murder of me and my mother, and was sentenced to I think 33 years and in prison. So it was that was good. But then again, like anybody else, what do? You follow the path that you were raised in, and I knew how to fight. Obviously, could take a punch, and so you know, I was in a world of drug dealing and you know, and collecting money. And then, you know, just had some really amazing people step into my life that believed in me when nobody else should have. And that has led down a path of starting companies. I would love to come on here and say that I was, you know, the golden boy that was successful my entire life. But, you know, it's really, that would be incorrect. It's been a life of failures, but never quitting and doing my best to not make the same mistakes twice, which has led to success, strangely enough. And you know, so that's where we are. And then I started buying companies, started fixing them. I'm a turnaround specialist by trade. People hired me in the beginning because of my failures, not my successes. And didn't graduate from high school, so I have no fancy degree. And now, you know, that led into, you know, building up a portfolio of my own businesses that I've got a private equity business where we buy companies that are in trouble and save the jobs. And then that led into philanthropy, which started with domestic violence, which is after my own heart. That then led into being asked to go undercover and do some, you know, some recovery of underage sex slaves in foreign countries. And then that led into Feed a Billion, which was the brainchild of Ambush Jane and Tony Robbins as a matching donor. And so those are the three main ones that I support, but I also support once a month any charities that want to come and learn these principles about how to build out a sustainable, predictable model. We've got about 85 now that come to a resource page that I just train for 2 hours for free. We don't allow any selling. It's just value add back to about 80 other charities. And that led into naming the Bald Avenger, which is a comical way of approaching dark subjects. You know, it's the superhero version of what we do. We've got a show that's launching and that's surrounded by the misfit nation, anybody that's made mistakes and doesn't let that define them. And that's kind of brings you up to date on where we are.
I think this concludes the interview of Life Unscripted.
And we're done. Okay, bye.
And we're done. This is Jason Sisneros. And I love, oh my gosh, I wish you guys could see the coffee mug that he just put up because it's the skull. And so he's got the Punisher ring too. So he's a very confusing superhero right now. And he's the Bald Avenger that's masking as the Punisher.
He was showing that to us, Melanie, before we started recording. So I said he has to share the story around the skull.
Well,
so
you know,
tell us.
It's actually a very short, very good story. But when I was younger, I mean, everybody used to give me skull and crossbones because of the life I was living. I mean, I thought I was a tough guy and all that other kind of stuff. Well, that led into all of the things that I do now. And this ring, you know, is a special meaning to the work that we do in rescues. And also I gave it a different meaning for the skull. It's representative of me dying to the me of yesterday and leaving all of that weakness, bringing with me the strength so that I can build on that into a new day and not make the mistakes of yesterday. So it's a very powerful, very positive message for me now in my life. So there you go.
We can write a book about his life just in this short time that we have with you this afternoon, because one thing that I will say, and I'm going to do the little formal introduction of there's too much greatness to be contained in just one podcast. So I already know, and I know Janie will be in agreement to bring you back for a future podcast, that this is going to be a series of Jason's life as we know it as the Bald Avenger, because the impact you have on humanity far surpasses a lot of folks that claims to be humanitarians. And we're going to discuss that, in a second here. But just to sum it up, he is a public speaker, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist. He has covered over 3,000 stages, definitely one of the A-lister consultation companies that I've ever come across in the space of business industry. And I don't say that lightly. I saw that he did post something on his website that caught my attention and said, what I love most about speaking is creating that momentum and being in assistance and service to the person who's looking for that one little thing to kick them over the edge. And that about pretty much sums up everything that Jason stands for. He may have fun during his social media lives. He does call for the truth as he sees it and as he needs it. And he doesn't BS around some of the hard subjects that a lot of people do shy away from. That's what makes him outstanding, over excellence, is that authentic heart. And I appreciate you, Jason, sharing your journey, because sometimes in the grand scheme of social media, they don't know what you've been through. That breakdown to breakthrough story of you, your life all in danger, your mother's life in danger, and you having to go against basically the Fort Knox, the own persecutions of your life to get to where you're at, so that you may also literally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, in all realms, save other people's lives. And for that, I am so honored to actually have you as a guest, on Life Unscripted, because you have unscripted everything that is supposed to be a norm. As a child that didn't have a high school diploma, you're not supposed to have, reached the heights that you have reached in the business world. As a person that was against the odds of a violent family environment, you're not supposed to have survived. Statistics were against you. Statistics were against you in being successful in the realms that you are. So can you tell us, at what point did you say, going back to your skull and bones theory and symbolism that you wear every day as a reminder that grounds you, at what point in Jason's life, with everything that was so negative in environment, in all spaces, did you say no more?
Man, that is a great question. And thank you so much for your kind words. I really appreciate it. I think it's been a series. If I'm going to answer that question honestly, probably the way that most people that have gone through, and there's a lot, right? My story's just one. I mean, you have a story, Janie has a story. Like, there's been some amazing, I've seen the people that you've interviewed on here. And I think that there's been a series of no more. I'll give you one example. The same week that my son was born, I got stabbed in the chest. I've got a scar all the way across it. And it was in that moment when, because I'm not a particularly religious person, but it was in that moment I heard the message from my grandmother from the Bible when I would be kind of in my room for a while my face would recover sometimes. And I had a Bible to read. And I read it as not as a religious tome, but as a series of stories, right? And from my grandmother and that combination, there was this thing that flashed in my mind, as soon as the knife went in my chest, and it was the sins of the father are born onto the children, right? And I thought it just was weird. It was, because that environment that I was in, why I was in that environment was nefarious reasons. I was there for a drug deal. It was, that thing flashed through my head, and I thought, I'm not going to do that to my kids. I'm just not going to. And wherever those thoughts come from, God, the universe, past training, that one sentence that we can give in a moment of being unselfish to someone who needs to hear it sticks and makes that one break from tradition, from patterns, from habits that create negative outcomes, right? And so that led to me leaving that lifestyle. And then it was, I got a $6 an hour jobs peeling, hand peeling logs, and just kind of started to, that wasn't enough. I was like, I've had enough being a low paid, worker. Then I would go, I need to learn a trade. So then I learned how to lay carpet. And then I'm like, well, the power is in being a business owner and working inside in sales. So then I did that. And then being the business owner, and then having my own company and crashing it because I didn't have the intellect, the knowledge. I did have the intellect. I didn't have the knowledge or the skill sets given to me at that point in time to know how to run a business. Well, then I crashed that one. I figured out what not to do. I crashed another one, figured out what not to do, crashed the third one. And then basically, like most human beings, I lost connection. I thought, well, if I'm not good at this, I'm unhireable. I've got a criminal record. There's nobody that's going to hire me. There's nobody that's going to invest in me. And I kind of lost it. And that led to a breakdown that led me to Tony Robbins, which was, I'm done with this life. And that was a close call with suicide, that I was like, I'm done. And for multiple reasons, which we may talk about in the future, I didn't do it. And then it led into Tony Robbins and learning his skill sets and an interaction with him that was unlikely, that just basically stated that everything that I was getting in my life was because of my own decisions. And that was that moment when I understood that from Tony, that message was really the things that have led to today. Because I stopped blaming everybody. I stopped looking outside of myself for solutions. I figured out that nobody's coming to save us, right? That we are imbued with the blessings called our challenges, because it strengthens something inside of us to be able to serve, which is why we're here. And that's the only thing that gives us genuine happiness, is to become as good as we can with reading and experiences and failing and trying, and then having that strengthen us for the people that need us so that they can be lifted to the next level. And that's the only place that I've ever found happiness, is in that service. Anytime I've been selfish, and I've been selfish multiple times, I am not an imperfect human being. I cheated on my wife. I crashed companies. I have done horrible things in this life, but not twice. One thing I've never done is raise my hand to my children or to my wives. So that I want to make sure it was clear. I learned that lesson early, but I made a bunch of mistakes, and what happens, I see a lot, and what happened with me was, you make a mistake, and you put a pin in it, and you stop trying, right? You're just like, well, I guess I wasn't meant for anything else in that deal. So if my life has led to one thing in that moment of saying, you know what, I can't blame anybody else. My life, my physical appearance, my money, my relationships, all of those things are in direct proportion to my intellect and to giving, not being selfish. All of my pain in life came from being selfish, from wanting things for myself, from trying to take advantage of other people, for trying to shortcut principled approach to different items, whether that's relationship or whether that was money or whether that was my body. There is pain to pay for making bad decisions in the attempt to shortcut things, because there are none. And then also having the wrong objective, right? So if I was to say the one thing that I learned was stop blaming people and have an objective in some way, shape, or form to serve other people. And that's sort of my simplified approach that has really served me. And there's, again, I think that's probably enough to answer your question. Sorry, I don't want to keep going on and on.
Well, we certainly appreciate that, Jason. And as a cycle therapist, I could unpack a lot of things that you said, but that would probably help a lot of viewers, but I'm going to just highlight a few. And one of the things that not only with watching your Facebook lives, but conversating with you and just following you, one of the things that I always push forward, not only as people trying to heal, but also as a business owner myself, is being true and transparent. Because in the very fact that you are transparent and saying, look, don't look up to me, I've made some mistakes, but I've learned from those mistakes, so let me help you by these mistakes. Because to me, it's not even about a degree. I mean, yes, I need to have a degree with what I do, but my business coach 8 years ago, when I started Life Counseling Solutions, I had went to a workshop and connected with her, short story, connected with her, and I just loved her. So I hired her as a business coach. And when I hired her as a business coach, I wanted to start Life Counseling Solutions 10 years from the time that I hired her.
Wow.
So I had started Life Counseling Solutions within a year of hiring that coach, and I had brought her in to coach my team. And Jason, when she coached my team, someone had asked her about where she graduated from. And she said, I don't even have a high school diploma. And, and I look back at that, and that moment, it shocked me, because what she said, I connected with, and it caused me to, and what she said to me, which stands out in my head, she said, Janie, action builds courage. So from that moment on, I started making some risks. I was fearful. I took some risk, but her degree at that point didn't matter, because I had gotten the results and she helped me learn from what I needed to learn. So I just appreciate that transparency and you being authentic. And yes, some people need degrees. If we go to a doctor, we want them to have a degree. So I'm not saying anything about degrees, but I'm saying in your pain, you turned it into purpose. When I look back at hearing your childhood, there are people that we can get stuck there. We can repeat the same pattern, and we can get information, because having information doesn't make a change, right, Jason? So we can hear information, know that we can go to Tony Robbins, we can get all this information, but unless we actually connect with that information, then that's where we're able to make those steps and take risk. So with that being said, because I think that's huge for not only our viewers and our listeners, right? Because if we can read books and take that information and then, turn into something great, I mean, I would be out of a job, so to speak. So when you think about getting that information and you connecting with yourself, being authentic, being transparent to where you are now, what would be some common mistakes that people make in business in particular to get to where they want to get to? When I look back at myself, it was fear that was holding me back. I was putting it off to 10 years. And she said, let's get out the whiteboard. Let's draw out the numbers. Let's draw out a strategic plan. And that strategic plan turned into 8 or 9 months later. So when you see some of the mistakes that us as business owners can make, what would be some of the common ones that you yourself have made and you've learned from them, and we can glean from that wisdom?
Well, great question. And I love that story, because now, I've got clients, Yale grads, Harvard grads, Wharton School of Business grads that bring me in, to their organization. So I definitely connect. I would love to meet her someday. That would be fantastic. But I think the biggest mistake, and I'm going to start prior to business, because business to me is nothing but a conglomerate of human beings, even if you're one person, right? A business is representative of human beings. And so those human beings bring with them into that organization all of their strengths and their weaknesses, their fears and their hopes into a business. And I think that's the biggest mistake, is before you start your business, you connect what you're about to do in business with non-metric items, right? Like you come in and you're like, well, a lot of people have started a business or worked in a company where they're like, I don't want to be like that, right? So they go in and they're just all emotion. This is my passion. This is my blah, 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 blah. 5 years goes by, 10 years goes by, and they go, I don't even like this shit anymore. Like, it's like, so the first thing, no matter where you are in business, that must be addressed is, what is your outcome for this stream of revenue that you are about to embark on, or that you're embedded in now? Because I see a lot of people that get a successful company going. Successful is a wide term, by the way, but they get involved in it and then they get bored and then they start hating the thing that they did, so they go start another thing. And that's where trouble starts with entrepreneurs, right? Is because we're restless spirits. And we want to keep going, and then they risk this positive cash stream for another thing, and it kind of crashes both. So the first thing is getting crystal clear with and unloading yourself from the mistakes that you've made in life that you're afraid of the rest of the world finding out, right? A DUI, cheating in a marriage, jail time, whatever it is that you're carrying around in this backpack, to let that see the light of day, and I've seen so many people do it, and I've done it myself. I wrote a book about all the mistakes I made and then went on to make more mistakes. So that's why, thank God there's Facebook Live where I can go, guess what I did today? Before anybody else goes, did you know what Jason did? It's the stupidest thing, right? And you all have it. I mean, I'm doing one of my shows is going to be about why CEOs are so disliked, why presidents and leaders and different things, are so disliked, and why they have so many haters. But the point is that the fuel that haters have is the mistakes that you refuse to let see the light of day, right? That's a fuel they have. That's a leverage. So my point is, nobody has any leverage over me because I've said it all. I've made every mistake in the book, and I tell people about it so that they learn from it. And some people may go, oh my God, he cheated on his wife. I hate him. Click, turn the channel. Fine. I'm good with that. Change the channel. If I don't associate to you, change the channel. I'm okay with that. I'm not here for anybody's approval, right? I'm here to serve. And sometimes in serving, you say things that people don't want to hear. And that then shifts the responsibility to them with what they're going to do. Making mistakes in business. People want to judge me for, he went bankrupt a few times, and lost his money, lost other people's money. And okay, I did, but you know what? I haven't done that in well over 10 years. So now kiss my ass and either change the channel or listen to what I got to say. So anyway, so the point was the mistakes that people make are taking that with them, not letting that see the light of day, right? And there's some ramifications that you have to pay when you do that, right? You may have wronged somebody that doesn't know about it, but I can tell you that next level of success cannot be burdened by the mistakes that you made in the past. It just can't be. Because you're bound, all it does, you may climb a little higher, but you're going to come back down like Sisyphus, right? Sisyphus rolling that ball up the mountain, it's just going to roll back down on you, and you're stuck doing that. That ball that Sisyphus is rolling up is all of the challenges and the mistakes and the lies and the hiding that you've done in your past. So if you let that ball roll by you and go, this is what I did, here's where I'm at. Now, getting into business, the first major mistake that I see, why do 90+% of businesses fail in the first 10 years of operation? One is they're not properly resourced, okay? They don't have enough money. They don't have enough resources of different types. And they think that they can make things happen with the improper amount of resources. Now, you can make a lot happen with small resources if you have strategic thinking involved. But I'll tell you why in the third part here, why that fails so often, and it's because of emotional attachment to what you think your business is. Second reason that it fails is because poor management. And poor management is lacking the skill sets to understand about cash flow, about operations, about sales and marketing, and about culture and training for sustainable, long-term, predictable streams of revenue. So those are the two first things. And I was missing both of those when I went into business, right? And so the biggest piece is that you go in, you bypass the fact that you've got to have proper resources. You got to know how to utilize them, even if they're small. And you also have to learn basic management skill sets so that you can run your business. Basic management skill sets require the separation between you and high levels of emotion, which flies into the face of what most people do when they start a business or when they're operating a business. They think that if you can go out there and be positive-minded enough, that your business will magically be successful, okay? And so they start out, and what I tell everybody is just reverse back, even if you've been in business for 10 years, reverse back to the moment you started your business. Now, look at it dispassionately and set up a machine that's going to create cash flow, and a specific kind of cash flow called free cash flow. That means you can take money out of it without it impacting the trajectory of growth that your company needs, the resources, the lifeblood. That free cash flow means that you're playing the game well, right? Money you can take out and then do your passion, right? So if you dispassionately set up that machine, and then once that's set up, you're going to listen and deal with metrics and numbers in a dispassionate way, because numbers don't give a shit how you feel. They just don't care, right? They're telling you a story that, you know, if I speak Chinese and I'm somebody speaking Spanish to me, I'm not going to understand what they're saying. Most business owners don't understand the language of business is numbers, right? And so you must learn to understand what those numbers are telling you. Keith Cunningham, who's been a mentor of mine, an amazing business mind, taught me that principle. And he's got a product out there called CFO Scoreboard that aligns the numbers with the right activities. And it's a great, great product. But so then you shift that in. Now, once you get that set up, what makes your business run is your passionate commitment, falling in love with the outcome of your client. You have to fall in love with the outcome of your client. Another great thing that I learned, right? Which is if I fall in love with their outcome instead of my product, now there's a much different association. If I'm in love, let's look it into relationships, which I'm not good at, by the way. But if we associated that to relationships and we said, if I fall in love with the outcomes of my partner, why would she leave me, right? Or why would he leave you, right? Because we're in love with we fall in love and we want to receive love the same way, or we want to give love the same way we receive it, and that may be causing a disconnect. Well, we fall in love with I'm the next Tony Robbins, I'm the next this, I'm the next that, and we fall in love with our own thing, and then we go try to jam it into the marketplace, and we wonder why people won't pay top dollar. We wonder why people leave us, why people don't hire us in the first place or don't use our product in the first place, because we fell in love with our own shit. Now, falling in love with somebody else's stuff demands of you the skill set of communication, dropping the ego and going, hey, Janie, hey, Melody, how do you feel, love? And then shut the hell up, right? And listen to the feedback that you get, and not even just shut up, but take notes. Same thing goes for our clients and our customers. How does that, what is it that you believe that this product or service is going to do for you? Shut the hell up and go blah, 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 blah. And if you hear something on the list that your product doesn't do, you don't go, that's not right. That's not right. You're going to take this product and it's going to be blue even though you like purple, you know? And, you know, it's the same exact thing in a relationship. I don't care if, you know, you like gifts. It doesn't matter to me. My thing is quality time. Spend quality time with me. Me. That's how most business owners are operating. And then the second thing that they do is they get into this thing called an association of other people who are delivering the same product, and those same people haven't stopped. They fell in love with their own damn product and not the outcome of the thing. And you've got a group of underserved clients. I don't care what your product is or what your service is. If you can have a direct conversation with that human being or that group of human beings or that entity and say, how do you experience love? In other words, what is it that if I could make the perfect product or service that I deliver, how would you like to receive that and what would it do for you? Okay. Second thing is that people hire completely the wrong way, including themselves. Even if we're a solopreneur, right? We come into this thing and we say, you know, I know bookkeeping, I know this, I know I've got this strength. Usually it's a product or service that you've got experience with, and you start a business because you think you're going to deliver it better than somebody else. Then you start to hire your first piece. I hate bookkeeping. So you put out a little ad. I need a bookkeeper, right? And then you get somebody, well, how it happens is, my cousin's nephew's dog walker just got out of business school, you know, for doing bookkeeping, and then you bring him in. Not understanding that you have to understand the outcome of that position before you hire anybody for it. Secondly, after you've hired them, you have to fall in love with your employee's outcome. See a familiar trend happening here, right? Because if I don't know why Sam or Joe or Tom or Mary or Letitia or whoever comes to work for me, if I don't understand that, guess what I have? I have a dispassionate robot that's there. I have their arms and their elbows, not their heads and their hearts. Another statement that I heard from Keith was, that I learned that I love. If you attach the outcome of your organization to their outcome personally, now you've got something, right? And so that finding out, just understanding, set your business up as a machine that creates cash flow, okay? Secondly, how you do that is by falling in love with the outcome of your client. Thirdly, and be open to that completely transforming the way that you deliver it, whatever it is that you do. Thirdly, fall in love with the outcome of your employees. And that takes, guess what? Same thing when you're in a relationship or for your customer, having a conversation that does not allow the first surface bullshit answer to count. Hey, why are you working for me? Well, to take care of my family and because I love you. Oh, good. That satisfies the weak-minded to go, oh, they like me. That's good. Which is the only reason why they act the way they do and don't challenge your stupid, our stupid assumptions, is because your liking them is what ensures their check's going to cash on Friday. I don't want that. I want people to come to my office and say, you dumb son of a butt, guess that's the dumbest thing that you could do. And I'm surrounded by people who are fierce, intellectual human beings. The reason why the product that we ended up putting into a consulting organization works is because I put $1,000 bounty on for anybody that could find a hole in it. And it cost me well over $130,000. I thought the thing was really good when I got done with it, and it wasn't. It was $130,000 worth of shit ideas, right, that got poked holes in. But guess how much that's made me into the future? I won't even tell you. Because it would make you sick. But that's the value of having people putting the ego aside and having people tell you where your idea and your delivery and your attitude and your verbal, your words and all this other kind of things are weak, right? So that's the sort of person you want to have in your organization. And the only way you're going to start that relationship is by knowing why they're with you and committing the outcome of your business to serving those people who then work for you or work with you. That's 3. I don't know.
So I'm taking massive notes here, and I'm just glad that we have a playback on this podcast after it airs, because, one of the things that you touched on, first of all, is the aspects of the key of listening. So a college professor of mine actually broke down listening in 4 aspects, which is the initial S, which is to sense. I is to interpret, right? E is to evaluate, and R before you respond. We actually call it the art of searing, of really doing that laser sharp focus on what is being communicated and not emotionally respond to it. So that's one. So again, it's sense, interpret, evaluate, respond. So I was first of all surprised that there was even a college course for listening. But it goes to show you the necessity of it, because of 2 ears and 1 mouth. That's not often practice.
Well, I think even a step before that would be a cue, right? For learn how to ask good questions.
Quality of questions.
Right? If you put a cue at the beginning of that, man, that's rock solid. I love that.
There you go. Cues here. We're about to tell the professor. We just added initial before that.
Yep.
But also, one thing that is, and I love that fact that we are completely aligned in this, is you air your skeletons before the public, before they can nail you to the cross with it, because that completely disempowers them from using it against you. I love that the spaces that folks like you bring in, where I said there's nothing that I hide, absolutely nothing that you could actually, nail me on the cross for, because this is transparency at its finest. And you find power and authenticity when you are actually being 100% transparent. Because you remove any hold or control that they have with you. I actually had a young mentee running for office, and I gave that exact same, I gave that exact same wisdom that you just dropped here.
Right.
Is politicians and celebrities get in so much trouble because they keep everything in the closet.
Yeah.
But when you're having
and there's a flip side to that, Melody, which is really powerful, which is that you tell the stuff because you want to, you're just controlling your own narrative, right? You're telling it from your perspective. And what it does is it creates a space, because I'll tell you what else exists out there. And I know both of you have experienced this, is that people make up lies and bullshit about you, right? Even outside of the stuff that I've admitted, right? I've heard stories of stuff that I'm like, well, that's a really great story. I wonder where that came from. Because I will tell the truth about my experience in these different relationships. And trust me, like I say, I have done some damage. I mean, some of it was even on purpose, and some of it was unconscious, and some of it was just because of lack of skill sets. So I have caused some damage, and I've caused some pain in some areas. But when somebody comes out, because this is what happens with a lot of people. When you come out as a light and you look, you've been vulnerable. That's when douchebags, sorry, excuse the language, but this is how we talk about it, right? Douchebags want to take advantage of that vulnerability. They say, well, he made this mistake, and then they start to attach little lies to it because there's a kernel of truth, right? And how do you fight that? How I figured out to fight that is just those people who make up lies and start with a kernel of truth and try to build on it for their own purposes. Everybody in their life that knows them knows that they are lying. Have you found that to be true in you guys' lives? Right?
There's a saying, and I always like to share this saying, Jason, because as a business owner, I've experienced a lot of different things through the years, is that we have the cobras and we have the pythons. It's the pythons we're worried about because they are right in our organization and they slowly squeeze, so I, as a psychotherapist, on the other hand, really believe in that. When we can embrace our stories and we can be congruent with who we are and not be ashamed of who we are, but we learn from who we are, it's the greatest power that we can have. And the greatest thing that we can walk with is our weapons. Because to your point, we're not walking in fear. Because if we live our dichotomous nature, we're walking in fear that people are going to find me out, or if someone leaves their organization, I wonder if she's going to say or he's going to say this. That takes away the power. So when they do come, to your point, you are able to walk in your confidence and being secure in who you are. So I think that is awesome to be able to be that and to model that and to be able to share that with us, that we need to first kind of cut ourselves open and understand who we are. And if there's any parts that are hidden from us, that's what's going to hold us back. It has nothing to do with even the other person. If we can't tell it.
And what both of you are doing, and I love this about your show, what both of you are doing is this wisdom gets into people, because a lot of times, when you haven't been exposed to things that, like the information that you're sharing, that what happens is you think that the whole world operates like that. You think everybody talks shit behind everybody's back, right? And so when you expose this, what that does is that gives people who didn't realize this a knowledge. When somebody comes up to them and all they're doing is trashing someone else, I put a post up a couple of weeks ago, right? Just say, thank you. I appreciate that. Now move just aside. What's that door behind you? Oh, it's a closet. Okay. Do you mind if I look in your closet? Because it's going to impact, I think, what you're saying and the position you're taking. And you open it. Oh, look at all your skeletons. Well, look at all the stuff you got back there. And you dare open your mouth about her or him, right? It empowers people to go, if you're talking shit or negatively about someone else, right? That reflects 100% back on you as a human being, and you're the weak one, and you're the powerless one, and you're the person that I want to extract out of my life before I ever let you in it. I'll find out for myself, right? I have some of my best friends, ex-drug dealers, been in prison for murder, all the different things. Some of the people that made the biggest mistakes in life have the balls to come out and, whatever the female version of that would be, but they have the guts, because there's actually more women who have made mistakes and come out and done this, that have done prison time. And Kat Dawn's one of them, right? With the domestic violence side. She has lady balls. Let's call them that. But at the end of the day, we come out from that and we look back, we don't hang ourselves on that line, and we tell the world and we leave ourselves vulnerable. And more and more people are understanding if someone is talking crap about someone else, it reflects more on them than it does the person that they're trying to destroy. So I wanted to add that little flavor to it, because being transparent doesn't mean people aren't going to talk shit about you, right? They will expand on it and add their own iteration and lies so that they can make, so that they can take away your power. It does nothing but add to mine. So I love it. Exactly. And you got to feel bad for them. You got to feel bad for them because they're carrying around all that hatred. And when they could be expounding on their own beauty because they have it in them, but they could be doing that. But no, they want to wave and point fingers to distract from that closet behind them. When if they just open it, people would be like, oh, I get it. Come here. Let's move on from that. But I feel really bad for them, So anyway, I went off on a tangent. I apologize. Back to you. Back to you, Melody.
Well, absolutely love that, because I think we all need to hear that, and there's lots of truth in that, and we can continue to walk forward and to learn about ourselves. And one of the things, before Melanie kind of asks a few questions to close you out, one of the things that you are saying that I want to highlight, because I think it's so important, is that Jason continuously learns. You are like dropping names of mentors, of books that you've read, and continuously learning. Could you share just a little bit about that, why that's important, especially for us folks that are in business?
Absolutely. Here, this is, so in business, I've got a little thing that I came up with that I really like, which is the two most expensive things in business are ignorance and arrogance, right? Ignorance just means it denotes that you don't have a skill set that you need, right? So you can go and solve those problems. And in that, where do you go, right? I would find somebody who's made a ton of mistakes. That's why we started the consulting company. Find somebody that's made a bunch of mistakes, not somebody that's advertising that they're perfect and walking around their multi-million-dollar mansion and flying off in a helicopter that they rented for $265 that they think that is yours, that you think is there, and, or from a beach somewhere. Look, I've done lives from beaches, but it's not none of the stuff. You've watched me long enough. You couldn't tell what I have from my lives. You can't tell what I have. You have no idea because it's not relevant. It's not relevant. What is relevant is the people that have worked with me, right? That's called due diligence, right? That talk to me, ask me, talk to people who've worked with me. That's where you get your information from, right? And so we have a Facebook page, Anton J Global on Facebook, where you can go and see what the message is from people that have worked for us. So all of that ignorance is something that can be improved upon, but be very careful where you fill that gap of knowledge. Because if it's from the slick Facebook people and the people that have written books and that are on the speaking circuit, for the most part, not all of them, but for the most part, they have no idea. If you're running a business that's doing $1 million or more and you've been in business for a year or more, you know more about business than 95 to 96% of the people that are on the speaking circuit today. Right? And what they're going to do is they give bad advice that actually harms your business and moves you backwards and wastes the number one resource that you have, which is called time. That we can't get back. So be very careful where you fill that gap from by being clear about the gap that exists. What do I not know? Where am I consistently having pain? It's referrals. I'm having a hard time getting referrals. We'll find somebody that understands how to get the referrals. Well, how that interconnects into how you're operating your business. Oh, I'm having problem with getting people to refer me, or I'm having trouble keeping customers to stay with me. All right, that's an operations issue. You're making a promise out into the world that your customer base is not that their customer base, you haven't fallen in love with their outcome. Like, it's specific, right? Another great one. Business is not a bathrobe. One size does not fit all. That means that every company, there's a difference between you and Melody, and there's a difference between what you do and this other person who does what you do versus the person that owns a janitorial company. Everybody's in a different place. Where are you and how do you optimize that and then build a solid company moving forward? Okay. Arrogance is the height of stupidity to me, because arrogance goes, I've got this stuff figured out and I'm going to stop learning, right? That's essentially it. Arrogance comes off as, I don't need any consulting and I don't need a book and I don't need it's the opposite of ignorance, right? It's a stopping point. And all of that is rooted in fear that when you do act, you're going to make a mistake. And where that is grown from is that as a business owner, you have to have all the answers. You cannot show your weakness to your employees, to your client base, to your church, to your family, to your spouse, to your kids, to your friends, to anybody, because if you do, then that equates to you in a business owner's mind that you don't know what you're doing, and that will cost business. So you start to this persona that says, I have all the answers, and that builds a shell over it. And the bad business owners start to believe that they know everything. They start to believe their own, again, smoke their own exhaust. And that's where a big mistake comes in. So that you got to break through and realize that you don't have all the answers, right? You don't have them all. Ignorance and arrogance, two most expensive things in business. Now, going back to your original question, I had to color it with that because my simple philosophy about how I live this life, I mentioned earlier. I believe that I'm here to get as good as I can. That means continuous learning. That means continuous failures. That means continuously learning and not doing the same things that don't work, doing more of the things that do. The very meaning of this ring is to die to the me of yesterday so that I can keep or get rid of the weak parts that don't work and keep the strength and build on that for the day coming forward. So get to be as good as I can with my intellect, my brain, my body, my vitality, my ability to influence, my ability to accept and to receive, so that I can utilize that for service out into the world, which is the ultimate reason for being alive, in my opinion. So that's the answer in a long string of words.
Well, I appreciate the responses. Again, you're definitely a very sharp business person. But as we come into a close, because I would love to just keep you and then just talk about business talks, which again, we'll bring you back for that for all our entrepreneurs and corporate workers out there. But we're going to turn this, as we close this, into something that is both near and dear to our hearts: humanitarianism. Boots on the ground. I did something called One Night, One Voice back in 2013 that ended up saving 20,000 lives halfway around the world. That I thought was going to be a small scale, but the divine alignment of, I'll say it openly, God had a different plan for my small idea. That number 20 was stuck in my head was a representation of over 20,000 lives that then leads me to UNICEF that represents 190 countries. That then leads me to, just beautiful projects. Because what we create here, Jason, and along with Janie with her humanitarian space as well, is we plant legacies forward. The past mistakes that our experiences has brought us where we actually impact generations. So thank you for your service in rescuing folks, boots on the ground from human slavery, because the statistics are out, just scary. And we've come to the point in this world where they're desensitized by those numbers that, sometimes they forget they represent human life. So you and I have been thrown into this project called the Shining Mickey Awards. And trust me, when I saw your name on the judges panel, I was screaming in my side because I said, this is a perfect alignment. Because those that truly have served boots on the ground humanitarian work, not just donate. Donation is awesome. But when you are truly impacting lives by saving them, turns a whole different element. So I just want to get your thoughts in being part of this, your thoughts are part of the project that now will be benefiting small to mid-level nonprofit organizations and B corporations in the field of imagination, creation, and innovation. What is your thoughts on the Shining Mickey Awards? Where are we going with this?
Well, from you, I had the same reaction when I found out you were part of the project, and I love the idea that getting the Disney concept behind all of these nonprofits, because a nonprofit is the same as a regular business, right? But their product is bringing down sex slavery, it's feeding meals, it's lowering the incidence of domestic violence. It's that's their product, right? And so what happens in charity is that they get involved and they get passionate about solving a problem. By the way, 20 was my football number in high school. It's always been my lucky number, and we're going to feed a billion by November 20th of 2020. So that's the feed a billion number. So I love the number 20, right? So it gave me goosebumps when you were saying it. I'm like, oh, hell no, there's that number again.
Yeah, number 20 was literally downloaded that was supposed to be a benefit, I thought was a cabaret concert to help the Philippines when they were hit with that massive hurricane.
Yep.
And that number 20 kept downloading. And I was like, oh, 20 people was going to arrive at this cabaret concert. No, 650 people showed up because there were 20,000 lives waiting on the other side of the world.
Love that.
You know, so number 20 is an alignment and a confirmation. So Shining Mickey Awards, where's your heart in this?
So my heart is, it's, again, we help companies. It's the pebble in the pond that you just said, right? The pebble in the pond is taking all of your influence and being able to influence that next wave of people, just like you just said. You did 650, that led to 20,000, right? And that's exactly what we turn the consulting company into. We find people that are already donating and serving in their communities, churches, for whatever it is. Doesn't have to be anything I'm involved in. We find them, and those are the people that's the sifting, right? We have a lot of people that want to work with us, and the sifting is, let me see your P&L, let me see that you are physically writing checks or donating time to those things. That's the pebble in the pond. So then I can resource them with better management skills, going all the way back to the beginning, so that they can make more money, which is the resource at the top, and they can do more good because they're already demonstrating they will, right? So what the Shiny Mickey Awards represents to me is that we take charities who are trying to do good, and they come in and they think it's all about doing the good, but they become full-time fundraisers. They don't understand about business structure. They don't understand about marketing. They don't understand about creativity and creating innovation inside of a space that very few people actually succeed at. To keep them away from the charities that have no interest in solving the problem that they're there for, because then what happens to their multi-million-dollar income stream when they solve the problem, right? So keeping over here into there's this slice of charity that needs resources, needs to understand how to fundraise, needs to know how to the business skills, and needs to know how to turn the Disney creativity into their own innovation for what they're doing so that they can affect and impact the metrics of what they're trying to do. That's what it represents to me. They're committed to resourcing charities so that they can do more good. And that's what I saw, that's what I see, and that's the power and the influence that we're doing. I'm already doing it with 80 plus charities in this resource page, and we're just going to turn that over to more exposure, more training, more thought processes, more love, more ability to be able to go out and do what they do. That's why I'm super pumped about it. And it's a great idea, and I love the heart and everybody that's involved behind it for their commitment to easing suffering in the world.
That would be the Jason legacy as we move forward into this project. One last word of wisdom for those that are humanitarians, boots on the ground, as we wrap up Life Unscripted. That hour just freaking flew by so fast. And I just love hearing all your shares. But any last words from the great Bald Avenger for those that are going through different types of suffering, whether it's human trafficking that they're currently victims of, or slave trading, or any violence, and any type of message of hope that you can then share?
If somebody's involved in that world and being held captive or being abused or in a bad situation in any way, shape, or form, raise your hand and we will come get you. We will come get you. Okay, from whatever, if that's a phone call, if we have to make, special arrangements, whatever it is, there are men and women in multitudes continuing to multiply that will come and get you. You do not have to stay stuck. You do not have to live the life that you're living. You just have to reach out, take that risk. And I understand that some people do, and they pay with their life for it. But the more even if that's the expense, I'm not saying to do anything that I don't do myself. I put my life at risk. I put myself in situations that I don't have to. I'm saying you do the same thing, because it may be your light, even in passing, that may spark an entire world to come to the rescue of those that are in your situation that need our help. So I don't know who you are. I don't know where you come from. I don't know your background, but I understand your pain. And there's people out here from just like this podcast that will come and get you one way or the other. Okay. So that's my message. And everybody else, follow the passion in your heart. It's there for a reason. If you have a passion to serve in any way, shape, or form, the universe or God has given you correspondingly the tools for you to be able to solve that. And then the only way you're going to do that is by stepping out of your comfort zone and going to serve a calling bigger than yourself.
And thank you so much for your time. That is just so full of just precious nuggets, wisdom, and inspiration, Jason. As we wrap this up, again, until next time on Life Unscripted, this is your host, Melody Garcia.
And this is Janie Lacey.
See you next week.